We are in for such a treat tonight. We have a message from Clayton Bjelan, and I have a bit of information to share about Clayton, just to give you an insight into the man that we have coming up on the stage shortly. Now, Clayton, you might recognise his voice when he does get up on stage. He has been in the radio game for more than 15 years, which I think means you must have started when you were about 5? Yeah, about right, yeah. So he's heard on air on 89.9 Light FM on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on his Conversations with Clayton's show. He has such an incredible job where he gets to interview such a broad range of people, the famous, the interesting, the inspirational, and he's been doing this for, I believe, over 8 years by now. So some of the people, I've got a list of some of the people that he has had the honour to interview. It includes our former Prime Minister Julia Gillard, our some people might see just as important, our Australian Idol winner Guy Sebastian, and also, quite interestingly, someone called Janelle Guzman-McMillan, who was the last person pulled from the September 11 rubble. So that just shows the kind of insight that Clayton must have, and just the questions he must be able to ask just to get the conversations going with such a variety of people. He's interviewed over 1,200 people. That is a lot of talking. He also currently serves as a content director for both 89.9 Light FM and Light Digital. And I also had the pleasure tonight of meeting his wonderful wife, Mandy, who he's been married to for over 10 years. And I understand they have 3 beautiful children. So welcome to the stage, Clayton, as he comes to speak.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It's great. Wonderful to be here. Absolutely love Bayside Church. I noticed up on the screen when Hattie came on, there was like woof whistles from where Hattie was seated. Wasn't that interesting? I wouldn't put it past him. It's great. It is great to be here, and wonderful to be here. My wife Mandy. I noticed my mum and dad sneaked in here too. How about that? So mum's always fashionable. You'll notice her, and dad, he has the same voice as me, just less hair. So that's pretty much how you'll be able to sort them out too. It's wonderful. Love Bayside Church, and it's a real pleasure being able to hook in with both Christy and Rob over the years too, and fantastic to have the opportunity to share with you. Interesting, I wanted to talk a bit about new starts today. Very similar to what Christy was sharing before, actually, and the idea of how we can actually have a truly new start. You know, we get into a new year and we have New Year's resolutions, and we have these ideas of we can change things, and we can. You know, we can make decisions and we can change things. But I really have the belief that the only way we can actually get a new start in something, maybe it's something small in our life, maybe it's something big in our life that's holding us back, maybe it's a sin, maybe it's something that's going on in our world, is simply through God. He's the only way we can actually start again. We can change stuff, but we can only start again with Him. And as I was looking through the Bible, I was thinking about this idea and seeing all these guys who had different changes that happened in their life. And one of them in particular, I thought just really captured this concept of change, a new start, rather than, just changing themselves, but having a new start from Jesus. And I thought to myself, well, how good would it be if I could bring them back here and let them share their story with you? So if you excuse me for a sec. G'day. I'm Peter from the Bible. Some people call me Simon. Some people call me Cephas, but you can call me Peter. And I've been asked to share a bit of my story and I suppose how it interacts with Jesus. And actually, my whole story is really all about Jesus. In fact, my story, my purpose, my meaning all came about because of 2 words. Just 2 words. it's interesting. I knew a little bit about Jesus before I really even talked to him. I was hanging out with John the Baptist a bit, and he pointed out Jesus to me, and so I sort of knew about this rabbi guy. And then one day I'm on the boats, I'm out fishing, and this Jesus guy comes along, and he says, "Come follow me," and I just sort of dropped everything, and I went, and that's sort of when the journey started. And people ask me, why did you just drop everything? How can you just drop everything and leave everything and just go? And I always know, if they ask me that question, they don't really understand the school system in the first century. So you've got to understand the school system in the first century to understand why I just dropped my nets and I went. You see, every little boy and girl at the age of about 4 or 5 goes along to school. We call it Beit Safar. And in Beit Safar, we learn the entire first 5 books of the Torah, your Old Testament, off by heart. Even Leviticus. Off by heart. We know it all. And that's sort of from the ages of 4 to 5 to about 10. And then at the age of 10, well, all the girls, that's it for schooling for them. And they go home and they learn how to keep a house from their mum, and they hopefully learn how to be a great wife and mother one day, and that's it for them. And to be honest, most of the boys, they go off as well. And they go off to a trade with their dad, whether it's fishing or carpentry or working with animal hides, whatever it is, whatever your trade is, you go off and you learn it from your dad. But the cream of the crop, the guys right at the top of the class, they go on to our next level of schooling. And our next level of schooling is called Beit Talmud. And in this one, you learn all about the incredible oral history of the Jewish faith and the Jewish people. And you learn all these sorts of incredible things. And you learn the entire Torah, your entire Old Testament, off by heart by the time you're 14. And then what happens? Well, most of the guys, pretty much everyone, that's the end of schooling. They go off and do the trade with their dad. But the top of the top, the cream of the crop, those guys right up there, they go on to our next level. And this is called Beit Midrash, house of study. Interestingly, it's not really a house. In fact, it's not really even a school. It's where you become a disciple of a rabbi. This is what happens. You go up, if you're those sort of the top level, you go up to a rabbi who you really admire and you really respect, and you say to them, I want to be your disciple. And then they sit there and maybe they sort of stroke their beard and they start asking you all sorts of questions. And they quiz you about the Jewish faith and about your understanding and about the Torah and about your upbringing and about what you believe and how you live your life. And they quiz you and they quiz you and they quiz you. And they're doing that for a reason. You see, rabbis, they can't just have endless amounts of disciples. They can only pour their time into a certain amount. And they need to know if this kid who's sitting in front of them can learn from them. In fact, not just learn from them, but can this kid in front of them know all my understandings of Scripture? You see, that's how rabbis work. They have the interpretation of Scripture. They have their understandings of the way Jewish life should be, their understandings of the way the interpretations of Scripture should occur. And so as they sit there and they're looking at this potential disciple, they've got to work out, can this kid be like me? In fact, can this kid be me to this world? can this kid, in essence, be a clone of me? Because when this rabbi passes on, his legacy is only going to be continued if this kid follows the same things, does the same way, is the same. If I was out of the room and this kid was in the room and someone else was there and they shut their eyes and they heard this guy talking, would they think it was me? Because it's the same thing. Can they be me to this world? And if they don't think the kid can, and off he goes to his trade. But if he thinks he can, he says to him, Lek Akari, come, follow me. That doesn't just mean come follow me. That means I believe you can be me to this world. You can be me. And you know what that kid does? He's 14, 15. He leaves his family. He leaves the family compound. He leaves his village. He leaves everything he knows. And he goes and follows his rabbi wherever his rabbi goes. He does whatever his rabbi does. Anything, everything, he does what his rabbi does. And that's what he does. It's the pinnacle, it's the dream of every Jewish parent, to have their boy be a disciple. So now you see why I can leave the nets just like that. My parents understood. I mean, I'm working on the boat. I didn't make the cut. I wasn't good enough. And yet this rabbi, this incredible rabbi, comes by and says, come follow me. You can be me to this world. That's why I left. That's why I left. And then my journey really began. You know, people ask me, what's your favourite moment with Jesus? And I got a really fast answer to that one. It's easy. Walking on the water. That was awesome. You see, we're out on the boat one day, and all of us were there except for Jesus. All of the 12 of us were there, and we're out there, and then he just starts walking out on the water, and we're like freaking out. I mean, especially Matthew and Thomas. They're like, little kids. But we're all freaking out. And then he's like, hey, don't worry, it's just me, it's cool. And it was sort of out of my mouth even before I'd really thought it. But in my head, somewhere in the back, he'd said that I could be like him to this world. And so just out of my mouth came, well, if it's you, then tell me to come. And he says, come. He says, come. So I get out of the boat and I start walking on the water. People ask me, what's it like walking on water? Wet. But I know what they mean. It's awesome. It's incredible. But I think the best word I can get is powerful. It's just powerful. Anyway, I took my eyes off him and started looking at the waves and how powerful they were, and I forgot he was more powerful. Anyway, I start sinking, and now I'm shrieking, help me, and he does. He grabs me and he puts me in the boat, and he turns to me and he says, why did you have such little faith? What did he say? What did he say? I didn't say anything. If you ask my mates, how would you describe me? they'd say, foot in mouth man. And that's pretty much me. You know, one time all these kids were wanting to come up to Jesus, and I'm like, no, he's too busy. Apparently he wasn't. And then another time, like he wants to wash my stinky feet, and I'm like, no way, you're not washing my feet. And he says, well, you can't be part of my team unless I wash your feet. I'm like, well, wash my whole body then too. I want to be in, you know. He's like, your feet's enough, man. Yeah. There was that time he called me Satan. That wasn't the greatest moment. I was just trying to protect him, you know. I forget he has all the protection he needs with his father. There's that other time I cut off that guy's ear. He didn't like it. I mean, the guy didn't like it and Jesus didn't like it either, but Jesus just reached out and his ear came back. Incredible. You know, people don't just ask me what was the best moment with Jesus. They often ask me what was the hardest moment. Sadly, I got a really fast answer for that too. It's when he looked at me. It's when he looked at me. You see, he was talking and he was saying a whole lot of stuff about, you know, all this bad stuff was going to happen, and sounded like he was going to die and stuff, and I'm like, no way, and you know, I'll be there, and I'll even die with you, you know, this sort of stuff, and he says to me, by the time the rooster crows tomorrow, you're going to deny you even know me 3 times. I'm like, nah. Well, anyway, pretty soon these guys, clubs and spears, and they come and they arrest him. He's out of nowhere, and then they take him off to, I suppose, like a courthouse area, and I'd sort of work my way in. And you ever have those moments when you walk into somewhere and the atmosphere is just different? You know, like you walk in and it's just heavy. That's exactly what it was like. They were going to get Jesus no matter what. No matter what. And I started getting scared. I mean, I started thinking maybe I don't want to die. And someone asked me, do you know Jesus? I said, no. And someone else asked me, do you know? I went, no. And then this little girl came up and said, yeah, you know Jesus, right? I said, no. And I said, look, I should be cursed if I'm lying to you. Just as I said that sound that's haunted me, that blinking rooster. And then as that sound happened, he was over there. There's guards around him. They were hitting him. They were spitting on him. And then, even while all that was happening to him, the rooster crows, and he turned around. And he looked straight at me. He looked straight at me. And there was pity in his eyes. There was loneliness. Most of all, it was just sorrow. I couldn't handle it. I just upped, I left. I ran away. I bawled. I bawled. I cried. Sure enough, they actually find him not guilty, but they still crucify him. No one there with him. I wasn't there with him. And then the rumours started. He's not dead anymore. He's come back to life. And I saw an empty tomb. Didn't know. And we were all in a room, all of us in a room, and the doors were locked, and we're scared, you know. We're scared and we're praying at the same time, and we don't know what's going on. And then while we're in there and the room is locked, Jesus appears. I mean, he's there in the room with us. And I wanted to do two things at the same time. I wanted to run up to him, I wanted to hug him and say, I'm sorry, and at the same time, I wanted to just stand back and make sure he didn't look at me again. I can't remember exactly what I did. I think I hid behind a few other guys and made sure he didn't look at me. And it happened another time, a few days later, and we're in this room and it's locked and he shows up again. And then we didn't hear from him, didn't see him for a little while, and we're still in this room and I'm going stir crazy, locked in this room. And eventually I say to the guys, let's go fishing, let's go do something. And so out we go, and we're on the boat all night. You know how many fish we caught? None. I'm supposed to be a professional fisherman. I caught no fish all night. The whole night. Sort of didn't matter because I just wanted to be out there, you know, do something. Anyway, in the morning, this dude sort of strolls up on the beach and he shouts out to us, hey, put your nets over the other side. Yeah, right here, man. I'm like, well, actually, what harm can it do? We caught no fish, right? Maybe you can see fish somewhere. So I tell the guys, yeah, right here, throw it over. It's like a magic trick. I mean, we throw those nets over and the moment those nets hit the water, fish flood into it to the point where the nets are breaking. No fish this side, nets breaking this side. It was incredible. And that's when we realized it was Jesus. You know, by now I got over myself and I just had to be with him. I just jump out of the boat and I start belting to shore. I get there and he's already got like a little fire going and cooking some fish on it, and we all have some breakfast and we're there and he turns to me and he says, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He didn't say Peter. It's like he wanted to really identify it was me. It couldn't have been any other Peter. It was me, Simon, son of John. Do you love me? I say, yes, Lord. You know I love you. He says, feed my lambs. I had no idea what that meant. But I wasn't going to interrupt him. And he turns to me again and he says, Simon, son of John, do you love me? I said, yes, Lord, you know I love you. He says, take care of my sheep. Then he turns to me a third time. And he says, Simon, son of John, do you love me? I was cut. I said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. He said, feed my sheep. And he talked a bit about me. You know, when I tell that story to people, they usually say the same thing back to me. So wasn't that really incredible of Jesus to give you 3 opportunities to say that you loved him when you denied him 3 times? And I get what they mean. I see the nice symbolism of it. But to be honest, it's not enough. It doesn't actually equate. They don't actually equal out. I mean, one of them is with a nice cooked breakfast just with friends on the beach, and the others in the absolute moment when the Son of God needs me most and I deny him. They don't equal out. They just don't. I get why people say it though. But interestingly, Jesus knew that. He knew 3 I love yous around a cooked breakfast couldn't quite make up for 3 denials of God to his face. Because it was the next 2 words that changed my life forever. The next 2 words that he said to me changed who I was forever. You see, after he'd asked me and I'd said I loved him, I'm all in, he looked at me again. This is what he said. He said, "Follow me." Follow me. We might have done it at the start, but I know you've been through a lot. You need to hear it again. You can be me to this world. Not you can be Peter to this world. You can be me to this world. I can work through you. I believe in you. These 2 words that changed my life forever. Follow me. Now, I'm not quite sure if that's how Peter would do it if he was here. But maybe it's pretty close. You know, we're talking about a new start, not just a bit of a change. And as I look through the whole Bible and I see it in Peter's story for sure, there's these 3 sort of things that keep reappearing. One is we always have the choice. Jesus is never going to force us into anything. We always have the choice. And as we choose to say, I love you, God, and I'm all in again, we get to the second incredible thing. And that is that Jesus promises a new start. He guarantees it. Whether it's your second chance on it, your 5th chance, your 73rd chance, your 164th chance. He says, I will forgive you. Guaranteed, I will forgive you. Doesn't mean we're not going to have to deal with some consequences of choices and stuff. But it's guaranteed, I will forgive you. You'll get that chance again. You will have a new start, but the only way is through God. But it's a guarantee. That's pretty cool. Not I will see how it works and I'll work out if it's okay. It's guaranteed. And then the third thing is the Holy Spirit will work through you. You will impact this world for Jesus. You will be Jesus to this world. Follow me. And you see it throughout the whole Bible. You look at someone like David, this dude who was an adulterer, and through that got this woman pregnant, then decided to let's sort this out, and the husband of this woman actually was one of his soldiers, so put him on the front line of battle and told the commanders to withdraw from him so he could get killed. This adulterer, this murderer, and you read David's story, a pretty bad dad, had the description of man after God's own heart. Sure wasn't because of all those things. Why was it? Because as he screwed up monumentally, he kept coming back to Jesus, kept coming back to God. He kept saying, I love you, I've screwed up, I'm all in again. And God kept giving him a new start and kept actually using him in the world. You see, Moses, I mean, if you think your upbringing's a bit weird, Moses, this guy who was a Hebrew, brought up as an Egyptian prince, 40 years, sees an Egyptian and a Hebrew fighting, he kills the Egyptian, someone finds out about it, he runs to the desert for another 40 years. He's 80 when this bush is on fire, not burning up. God speaks to him through it, says, we're going to finally use that weird upbringing, it's going to be perfect. If you're all in, we're going to give you a new chance. And he goes back in and he leads his people out of slavery towards the promised land. You think of Peter himself, this guy who perhaps committed the ultimate sin of denial of God to his face. I love you, I'm all in. He gets that fresh start. You know what happens 2 chapters later from this story in the Bible? Just 2 chapters later, he preaches up a storm in front of thousands of people, and 3,000 people are baptized and added to that church on that day. 2 chapters later. Down in the dumps, Jesus says, follow me. 2 chapters later, that's what's happening. You know what happens 3 chapters later? He's walking into church and he sees a guy who's been crippled and hasn't used his legs ever his whole life, and he says, get up and walk. And the dude does. You know what happens 5 chapters on from this story? Just 5 chapters on. All the people get their sick family and friends and they line them up on this side of the road. And they line them up on this side of the road and they hope and they pray that the sun is going the right way when Peter walks down. Because if Peter's shadow falls on them, they get healed. His shadow. Jesus is going to work through you. Sometimes even when you're not doing it yourself. In fact, that's when he will. 5 chapters. On from when this guy was at the pit and at the bottom of everything and thought he was worthless and pointless and useless. And his sin had buried him so much that Jesus couldn't ever use him again. Jesus says to him, follow me. You can be me to this world. And he did. And so maybe for you today, maybe it's something like, maybe it's porn going on in your life. Maybe it's grabbing a hold of you. Maybe you've acted out some of those things and it's destroying who you are. It's destroying your marriage. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's greed. And you're just incredibly good at covering that up. Whatever it is, whether it's big or small, maybe you're just pretending to do the God thing. Jesus is ready right now to use you into this world. And right now, I don't know what your 2 chapters later is, or your 3 chapters later is, or your 5 chapters later is. But it's there if we do the same thing that he's been doing forever. Our choice. Do we love him? Am I willing to be all in again? Am I willing to give up that bit of that sin, that who I am, whatever it might be, that worry we're talking about before? To be honest, that's my biggest one. Am I willing to give that up again? Here's the remarkable thing. He's not going to maybe give you another chance. It's guaranteed. And then not just another chance so you can be clean again. He's actually then going to use you. That's what I think is incredible. So if we want to come on up, and I'm going to pray for everyone in just a second, but if you want to come and have someone pray for you, I think come on down as we sing. Because I'm a big believer in moments. Not that moments in themselves have all that much incredible power, but that it's a moment in time to say, this is when that happened. That's what I love about moments. And maybe that's it for you. Maybe it's something little, maybe it's something big. But here's the incredible thing. You can get a 2 chapters later and a 3 chapters later of God working through you, not you doing it. This is not a buck it up and you can be something better later. This is awesome. I'm just going to give myself to you again, God, and you're going to be awesome later. I think it's an incredible opportunity. So I want to make sure that if you want to do that, you come on down as the music's playing and there's going to be heaps of people. I saw heaps of people being able to pray for everyone before, so we're going to be able to do that again, which is fantastic. But let me just pray for all of us now. Dear Lord, we thank you that a man who is the ultimate foot-in-mouth man, as he did a couple of simple things of loving you and being okay to be all in again and face up to that sin and that stuff that was going on in his life, could do some incredible things in this world because you had a vessel to use. We thank you that you said those words to him, follow me. Follow me. Peter, I actually believe in you more than you believe in me. Jesus, we thank you that that's what you're saying to us right here, right now. Thank you that you actually believe in us far more than we ever believe in you. So often we talk about belief in you, but you're actually believing in us. Dear God, we want to be used by you. We want your Holy Spirit to flow through us. We don't want to keep these temples locked up. We don't want to ask God, come in. We want to ask God, flow out. Dear God, I think of that incredible Psalm 51 that David wrote after he had committed adultery and committed murder. And he prays and he just senses how broken he is before you. And he calls out for your grace. And then as we get through the psalm, he knows that you'll give it to him because you are an incredible God. Dear God, his one thing is that we don't need to provide sacrifice. Or in today's language, we don't need to go and work to prove how much we love you. We don't need to work through our guilt and do it all by ourselves. We instead, and he says, we just need a broken and contrite heart. A heart that simply says, I can't do it, but you can. Dear God, I thank you that in my own life, when I'm willing to fess up about something in it, small, medium, large, you are always gracious to forgive. Guaranteed. You're always gracious to make something more of my life because I've done that. I thank you that that's certainly not just true for me, but for everybody. Dear God, we're a people who are together here tonight because we want to have you shine through us more. We want this world to be impacted more because you are flowing through us. So Lord, we just want to say thank you so much for those words, follow me. We thank you that they were words not just for Peter, but they're words for us right now as well. Jesus, thank you for saying to me, each and every one of us, to me, follow me. Amen.
You know, we're going to question our desires in what we're praying for. Are they godly prayers? Are they prayers for what he wants for us and knowing and asking that? Or is it stuff that we want? And so pride is referring to, being proud of our own wisdom and our own thinking. Pride is thinking we know what's best versus believing in God's best for us.